into your certain
Okay.
areas.
Great.
Installed.
What?
We just did that.
Should we go back down there and see what? Oh, that's weird.
What's saying it's here, so I'm guessing it's working. I'll just do a quick.
Okay.
But it's working. Okay. Go with that.
I guess there's two maybe there. Okay. Thank you for your help.
Yep.
So, we will start with Alex, Michaela, Connor, Caroline, Peter, and Rosie. I'm excited, so maybe we should be up a little bit closer just to give eye contact. Make sure you give me your full attention. And hold your attention. But
Bolts off.
There you go. There you go.
everybody ready?
Quick question. Yeah, where is it on?
Well, I made a, oh, this is wrong. I made a, yeah, mine.
She adjusted it somewhat for the grade, but ours are.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Wait, so we have there's different what? So there's a rubric that I don't know about in the rubric.
It was the easy. Are they
She
both?
said she had a different.
There's like
For
the
the-
one that she has that's like more based off of like comp, but the one that you have that says TEDx grading / judging rubric, I was thinking that.
Ooh.
I feel very disadvantaged because I didn't take comp. Yeah.
Yeah, you're good at speaking.
Don't worry about it.
Don't sweat.
Take it away.
I have to try everything.
Yeah.
Are we going to use the like the comp?
Yeah. Keep on going. Okay. All right. Here we go.
So, in today's world, something that people are very conscious of is their health, both mental and physical health, right? You're always hearing people say, oh, you shouldn't drink soda because it's bad for you. You know, there's less people smoking now than there ever has been, and there's more regulations on that sort of thing because those sorts of things are harmful for you. And people are paying attention to that, and they want to be conscious of that. And something else that people are doing is that they're not just conscious of the food that they're taking in or the media or the things that they're watching. They're also more conscious of, well, where is this thing coming from? You know, where is this shirt that I have on? Who made this shirt? Was it somebody who's getting paid a fair wage? You know, so that's when you get into fair trade stuff and things like that, right? You know, people are more conscious of sweatshops and things like that thanks to the internet. But there's something out there that, there's a media out there and an industry out there that both is bad for you mentally, and it's also they also hurt their employees, and it's just a bad environment for them. And that is the pornography industry. And I'd like to read a quote for you from a former porn star. I got the crap kicked out of me. Most girls start crying because they're hurting so bad. I couldn't breathe. I was being hit and choked. I was really upset, and they didn't stop. They kept filming. I asked them to turn the camera off, and they kept going. This is a quote from Reagan Starr. She did an interview with the Guardian, which is a British newspaper. She did an interview with them in 2002, and she was a porn star from 1998 to 2001, and in that time span, she did 92 pornos. And those are just the pornos that are documented. That's not including maybe however many she had to do before she was actually signed on by a major company. But, you know, there's no telling how many other women out there have been hurt in this way by the porn industry. And you know, and over her career of, you know, only 3 or 4 years, she had a lot of mental and physical hurt that was brought upon her. And just to illustrate that point further, here's another quote from her. She said, "Even though they told me what the video was going to be like, they didn't tell me that it was going to be physical abuse. They didn't tell me, if they would have told me, hey, Reagan, this guy is going to strangle you. He's going to pick you up by the hair and throw you to the ground. He's going to make you cry, and we're going to keep filming. If they had said that to me, do you think that I really would have stayed with that company? No, I would have walked out. You know, and I had no idea that any of this was going to be real. Nobody told me this. So, because of that, consequently, I walked out of that situation traumatized and crying." And she later on in the interview said that she got paid $300 for that, to do that one video. And there's no telling how much money that they made off of that video, you know, this industry. And, you know, so we don't always know when these people are giving their consent, or maybe they're not giving their full consent because they weren't given enough information. And something that the porn industry would like us all to believe is that the people that are in all of their videos are consenting to it, that they're there because they want to be there and they're having a good time doing it all, when that isn't always the case. But thanks to editing, all they have to do is edit out the parts where maybe someone's crying, or maybe they get a different angle so you don't see the bruises that they have, things like that. And everything looks very glossed over and very glamorous, and it all seems like it's real, but it isn't real. You know, we need to understand that it's a production, and that they're going to try to manipulate things to make us think differently. And, you know, it isn't, sometimes people aren't even consenting to this at all. And here's an example of that. In 2011, the U.S. Department of Justice put out a report that said that for 5 years, that there were 2 men who would lure women into human trafficking. And what they would do is they would set up advertisements for modeling, and they would say, you know, that you could come and be a potential model for us. They would get there and they would drug these women, kidnap them, assault them, and then videotape it and sell it to porn shops and to companies. So in doing this, those women aren't consenting to it at all. And fortunately, these men were apprehended, and they're both now in jail. But the fact that something like this happened, and that you know, those types of videos are out there, is something that's very, very disturbing. You know, to have to try and deal with. And I have one more thing here. Another person. This is a statement that was given at the National Press Club event in 2008 by Dr. Janice Shaw Krause. She's the executive director of the World Congress of Families, and she stated, in a study of 854 women in prostitution across 9 countries, 49% said that porn had been made of them while they were in the prostitution industry. And that 47% of these women said that they have been harmed by men who had either forced or tried to force their victims to do things that they had seen in porn. So this is an industry that is hurting women, you know, all in all, and you know, and we don't know the full extent of this, because sure, some of these women were brave enough to come out and say this, but how many of them stay silent? How many of them put on a face that says that they're happy and they want to be here because maybe they feel trapped, maybe they are in it for the money and they don't think that there's another way that they can get out of this? So that's how porn hurts us in a social way. But porn also hurts the people that are watching it. Dr. Broswick of the Surgical Neurology International Institute said that our brains have a reward pathway. So whenever we do something like, you know, whenever we eat, or, you know, or we exercise, or whenever we, you know, have sex, things like that, there's something that triggers in our brain, and dopamine is released in our reward pathway. And what this does is this, the reason that that's there naturally is because when we eat food, it releases dopamine because then it says, oh, that's good, because we need to keep ourselves alive, obviously. So that's a good thing. And also, when people have sex, that's the same amount of dopamine is released because we need to keep the human race going. So because of that, both of these things are released to help keep us alive and to survive. But the problem is that they noticed, Dr. Boswick in this study noticed that when somebody watches porn on a screen, the same area of the brain is triggered as if it was a real woman in real life that they were going to be sexually active with. And if it was a real woman, that would be one thing. But since it's just a screen, and the same amount of dopamine is released in the same part of the brain, because the brain sees that person as a potential mate. But it isn't actually a potential mate because it's just a screen, and there's no potential for any intimacy to take place there. So, and every time that you click to a different video or a different picture, the same amount of dopamine is released. So what happens is, the more porn that someone watches, the more that dopamine keeps being released over and over again, and it becomes oversaturated, right? Our reward pathway becomes dysfunctional because, as we're doing this, as we're watching, as someone watches porn over and over again, then they need to keep watching more and more of it to have the same amount of dopamine that's released. So it's essentially junk food for us. Because when somebody eats junk food, yeah, it tastes really good, but it's actually really bad for you, and you shouldn't, in theory, you shouldn't eat junk food because it's bad for your body. But, this is junk food that perhaps doesn't go away. So why care about any of this? Why does this matter at all? Well, it matters because porn today is more accessible than ever. If any of us wanted to, we could pull out our phones, and in 10 seconds, you could go on to Google, type in porn, and press search, and you could probably have millions of results for it. I suppose it was more difficult back in the day when you had to maybe actually go to a porn shop or something, but now it's at your fingertips. It's at everybody's fingertips. And even if everybody isn't using it, the fact that it's that accessible to everybody is a problem and is a big concern because there's a potential for more and more people to be watching porn on a regular basis, thus feeding into that industry and hurting countless numbers of men and women. And also, just the people themselves that are watching it, it's going to be triggering, more and more dopamine release in the reward pathway, and then they're going to become addicted to the porn. And the reason that I know this is, and the reason that I became involved with this and passionate about this is because I am addicted to porn. Now, when I say that, I should preface that by saying that it's been a little over 2 years since I've actually watched any porn, but I still consider myself an addict because I used to watch it every day. And I didn't really like the person that I was becoming because it became a necessity for me, I kept needing and needing it. And it wasn't until about probably 4 years ago that I first heard about this sort of information, and I decided that I wanted to make a change. But even in doing that, it still took a while, it got to the point where I would watch porn, but I would feel bad about it, but I just couldn't help myself. So, if you're somebody like that who struggles with this, and you want to seek help, the biggest solution that I found is to tell somebody about it, because if you tell someone about it, then all of a sudden it doesn't have that power over you anymore. Obviously the first people that you tell should be people that you can trust, but then as you become more comfortable with it, and maybe some time down the road, you feel comfortable presenting it to a bunch of people that you kind of know but don't really know. You've only been in a class with them for a couple months. But that's what it, that's how it can build up. And one of the ways that I found that helps with getting over this addiction is when you feel the urge to watch pornography, to get up, go and do something else, right? Go to a crowded place or call somebody, There's all sorts of ways and all sorts of resources and support groups that are out there for people that struggle with this. So I really encourage anybody who struggles with that to do that. And even if you're not, if you're sitting there and saying, well, this is something that I don't really struggle with. I've either never watched it, or maybe I've only seen it a couple times, and so this isn't, how does this apply to me? Well, it applies to you because those people who are addicted to it are your coworkers, and they are your family members. So it's important to be able to talk about this and have knowledge about this, right? People love telling other people about how bad GMO is for our bodies, and how bad it is to buy, things that are made in sweatshops. Well, then why aren't people talking about how bad porn is for us, and how bad porn is for our society? You don't hear people talking about that much. And honestly, porn it's kind of just a dirty word. People don't really like to say it, and it kind of makes people feel a little uncomfortable. So I think that the biggest thing that I want you guys to take away from this, and that I encourage you all to do, is to do more research into this. Because, sure, I have 18 minutes up here to talk, but there's a whole world of information out there that, about how porn affects a person's partner, how it can affect your sex life, and just other things like that. And I'd like to close with a quote from Pope John Paul II. If those of you who don't know, he was the Pope for almost 30 years for the Catholic Church, and he made a lot of great strides. And he once had somebody in an interview say to him, "Look, Holy Father, why, the reason that the Church does not like pornography and doesn't permit it is because you're trying to repress your sexuality." And Pope John Paul II, just on a dime, said, "No, the problem with pornography is not that it shows too much, but rather that it shows too little." Thank you. How long was it? 1331. 1331.
You want to give us some feedback?
Good for you.
Hey, thanks for sharing. That was awesome.
The quotes were good.
Very topic.
It's a lot of encouragement you do.
That was really good.
Well, to be honest, this isn't my first time doing our youth stuff. But church groups, and when I was a seminarian, I would go and present I would go to high schools and talk to all the students that were there. Like that stuff. What was that? Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, nice conversation. Anything else?
I feel like you really engage with the audience too. And I don't know when I present, I really don't kind of do I'll bring like papers and notes with me, and I just really feel like we spoke from like the heart, with your truths, and we spoke from your experience.
Thank you.
All right, good job. All right, can I get your notes, Alex?
Okay.
Are you using Carla? Where? I'm keeping it on because it makes more light. That's why I didn't listen.
No, how do we
Yes.
Hi everyone, I'm Kayla Collins, and today I'd like to talk to you guys about embarrassment. So, to start off, how many of you guys embarrass yourselves on the team? Okay, a big few of us. And of you people, how many are just totally comfortable with it, completely okay with it? I actually think that we need to embarrass ourselves more often than we do. Why is that? Today we live in a society of perfectionists. People who feel that they need to go above and beyond their work, that they need straight A's and 4.0 GPAs to feel validified, and people who think that they need picture-perfect family, friend, and intimate relationships when we have. But all this perfectionism in our life actually makes us afraid of or even resentful of our own flaws. And something that puts so much pressure on us people. I think that we need to learn how to embrace embarrassment and be satisfied with our thoughts and live with happier people. So, thinking about all the ways society allows us to be perfect, we have a huge amount of pressure on our shoulders as both college students and young adults who are wanting to go into the working world. I mean, think about it. We're told in high school that we won't get into the best schools without going above and beyond and we won't have the best education. We're told if we don't excel and diversify in college that we won't get into the best careers and that if we don't have perfect relationships with friends, family, and significant others, then we won't be happy people. And it all just adds to the pressure inside of us. And I think about myself personally, specifically at the beginning of this semester. So, came onto campus in the summer with 3 jobs, 16 credits, and a lot of friends to catch up with. And I thought, I can do what I'm doing perfectly, I'll have plenty of time, plenty of sleep. Yeah. I found out very quickly that there is no way that I could excel in all my jobs, get straight A's in all my classes, and have enough time for my friends in a way that was actually livable for myself. And this soon came crashing down on me, and I started thinking to myself, why am I here? What am I doing? And my personal favorite, the work in this motivation is So, this ideal of perfectionism that we have is actually very non-adaptive. Tina Benson wrote an article in 2003 titled The Many Faces of Perfectionism, and he described this in great detail. So, when I say perfectionism is maladaptive, that means that it's really not meant to fit anywhere in a balanced and happy human life. And he also described how perfectionism is oftentimes confused with motivation, but the two are completely different. And I'll tell you how. Follow along with my mental marker here. If we think of motivation as a staircase, we are motivated to achieve. There's a process, and we take every step in the process until we reach the top. And once we've reached the top, we have achieved a goal or accomplished a task or something like that, and we can be satisfied with it. But perfectionism is like one side of the mountain. It's always going up. It never ends. There's never an end in sight. And the higher you go, the more fear that there is, you will fall back down because you don't put it up. There's more you could have done, etc. And this tendency in us actually makes us less likely to put ourselves in any situations that threaten us showing imperfections. So, think back to our school prom, if you will. You know, if you were that person or you were that friend or date who hops and walks like a dead chicken, you were the last person on the dance floor. It either took a lot of persuasion from your friends or a little force or some other tactic to even get you to put yourself out there. And I think of that as actually pretty sad. That people will go so far as to sacrifice enjoyment, making memories, having fun and letting loose, all just to save their own face. So we know that perfectionism is extremely unrealistic, but yet we still strive for it. And this craving for perfectionism inside of us can actually lead to very high anxiety. The Mayo Clinic wrote an article in 2014 about generalized anxiety disorder, which happens to be the most common of anxiety disorders in this country. And they described how the two were really two peas in a pod. Because with perfectionism, we are always focused on the negative side of our traits, thinking what we did wrong, what we could do more, what was missing. And that leads us to oftentimes feel worried and anxious about ourselves. And people with high anxiety or tendencies for perfectionism are oftentimes restless. They worry about worry. They obsess over little things, and they start to ruminate on their mistakes and replay them in the past. And all of these symptoms can actually lead to more serious physical symptoms, such as fatigue, trouble sleeping, chronic headaches, and muscle aches and twitches. So all of these effects are pretty ghastly, and they happen to be effects that I know fairly well. Because I am also one of the many people with generalized anxiety disorder. And everyone struggles with anxiety or with affection of any issue such as this is different. Everything's individual. But my struggle for me looks a lot like this. I can never accept good enough as good enough. Especially when it comes to my schoolwork, nothing is ever done. I look at things, what can I do more? What am I missing? What do I need? And I oftentimes feel like I need to be worried about something. Like I'm forgetting something if I can't control every aspect of my life and have everything that's happening to me under control. And this oftentimes leads me to feel like I just can't win. Like any decision I come across, anything I do, there's always going to be someone somewhere who's disappointed. But there happens to be a light at the end of this tunnel. And luckily, there are very easy things that we can do that will overcome anxiety and perfectionism, or just worries in our life in general. The first thing is to remember that perfection is fiction. No one in this world is perfect, and no one in this world has ever been perfect. That's just the way we're engineered. So Juliana Grenades wrote an article this past February titled 5 Flaws of Just Making You Wonderful. And her first notable flaw, no surprise, was embarrassment. Juliana described how people actually like it when we show that we're embarrassed, when we get red-faced and bashful in front of everyone. Because she said people interpret that as a sign of trustworthiness and a sign of honesty. And that in relationships, when you show that you're embarrassed to the other person, they can see that as a sign of strength and a sign of resilience versus a weakness or a detriment to ourselves. The second thing to remember is that your flaws don't ruin your character. They build you. So when we allow ourselves to accept all of our flaws and quirks and these weird things we do as part of ourselves, we can start to see what other people see in us, which happens to be very genuine people who are afraid to be themselves. And when we see our own flaws, it helps us remember that everybody makes mistakes. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And the only thing that matters is how we respond to those mistakes, which makes me think of cheerleading. So I've been a cheerleader for about 6 years now, and I could not count the times on my fingers and toes where I have embarrassed myself, done something wrong, shouted, not said, shouted the wrong words, all when I'm on the line with my teammates right in front of the fans. I mean, even here at St. Mary's, there have been times where everyone is going to the left, and I'm the only one going to the right. Or we'll stop cheering for defense and start cheering for offense, but I'm still cheering for defense, and now it's going to be other teams. Oops. And the third thing to remember is that good enough is truly good enough. When we meet the mark, when we do something just the way it needs to be done, that's an accomplishment. And every accomplishment is one worth celebrating. So with all of these things in mind, I'd say that it's time we embrace our flaws and our embarrassment in order to be happy people. I think we need to recognize who we are with all of our flaws, our quirks, and our embarrassment, those weird things that we do that are really sense. What? Because they all make up the individuals we are. I say that we need to think positively about ourselves and what we are capable of, so that we don't let the craving for perfectionism limit our abilities to achieve. I say we be the ones to embarrass ourselves. Thank you.
That was awesome.
spoke really well.
Really
I liked
good.
your good gestures a lot. It was very natural. Easy to understand as well. She was engaging.
That was my biggest challenge because I'm Italian, so like I always want to
Cool topic.
And I also felt that there was a good amount of like credible and academic sources, but it wasn't completely informational. You were able to take those sources and then sort of make them your own, but then also kind of just looking at it, you know, be the one to embarrass yourself a little bit from like a scientific standpoint. So that's what I like. Peter, run. I think you can split the class.
What if I have a PowerPoint? I have a PowerPoint. Do I just use a mouse, or how am I gonna click it? Is it? Oh, it's supposed to be good.
Go ahead and pull it up.
Okay.
Just don't log me out.
Should I pull it up?
Yeah, in fact, why don't you go in through Google or something?
Perfect. It's really small. Oh, yeah.
I can see you back there. Did you ever get my pictures, especially last night? Yeah. Yeah, they're fun. We brought it down. I took it off. I took it off. Yeah, we lessened the amount of time so that. Okay, so let's see. Oh, is it?
This thing's loading right now.
I'm not worried about it really.
As long as it's not like 4 minutes.
Yeah, and as long as it's not like really long.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah. So this is back, forward.
Backward. All right.
And now why don't you go up there and see if it'll do it?
All right.
Oh, it needs to. It clicks, but we need to show it up on the screen. Oh yeah. Da, 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 da.
There's almost there.
Stupid head. What are you doing? Oh, it's adjusting.
Go back. Nice. Oh, yeah. Oh, we got it. Yeah, here, there's a lot.
Done.
Ready? Alright, so I'm here to talk to you guys about being yourself. So I'm going to start off by everyone could close their eyes and I'm going to say a statement and ask a few questions I just want you to think about. Think of a time when you were talking to someone who made you feel like you couldn't be yourself around them, whether you couldn't trust them or you just didn't like them or whatever it was. Now, did it make you feel nervous, scared, uncomfortable, or even uncertain about how you want to be around them? Now think about that. So if I were to ask you to describe how you act around the person, was it easy or hard because you knew something was different or awful? So with the eyes still closed, now I want you to cut negative people from your life and surround yourself with people who bring out the best in you. Now you guys can open up your eyes. So how many of you feel like you have or had someone or something that has made you a better person today, whether it's been someone who's giving you advice, the way you act towards others, a significant other, or watching something on TV, because I got that. So people today go through changes all the time, whether it's because someone completely changes who they are, you may change the person you are. You lose your friends, like I said before, advice that's given to you, or someone passes away that's close to you. So the reason why I ask you these questions begins because people can always, whether you're close to them, can always affect who you are as a person, or even people around you can change who they are, and that can affect you. So sometimes life is hard, and when life is hard, it's hard to be yourself. What I found from an article from Julie Tate, she talks about one of the most important things about people struggle with today. That is someone who worries about what other people think about. Because it's true that people do worry about what other people think, because we think about whether they'll judge us, they'll criticize us. To be honest, I even had that problem. Growing up, I still have that problem today. Because I worry about, for example, participating in class, like if I'll say something dumb, or a misunderstanding, or confusing them, I worry about what other people will think of me. So, from a quote that I found from Ralph Emerson, talks about, or he mentions that to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. And it's true, because we are going in a world that is trying to change us these days, because starting in school, meeting new people, and it's just always a change. And the reason why I took this quote down is because I really understand this as what Ralph was saying, because all you have to do is all you have to do in life is to be able to succeed is to be yourself. And so that leads me to my story that I'm going to tell you. So when I was in 8th grade, my school would bring in, high school students in my caucus all the time. Throughout the year, there'd be about 6 to 10 students throughout, the time I was in 8th grade. And they would talk about their success, their time they had in high school, and all the information they would tell us. And I remember the one most important thing they would always say is that you could be anyone you want in high school. You could be a completely changed person because you're starting, a new school, you need new teachers, new students, new friends. It's a completely new start. You can act like anyone you want. And so I thought to myself, and I said, yeah, that is true, but I like the way I was at the time because I was just the person, I was just being me. I didn't want to be like try to be someone else that would be cool or anyone different. And so I thought about that, and I said, I'm just going to take into high school being the person I am. So high school started, and my good friend Justin and I, as we grew up together, we went to high school. This was our first year in high school. We hung out in class after school, and we even joined this hockey team for one of our city leagues. And so when the season started for hockey, I noticed there were 2 guys on the hockey team that were pretty much, they acted like jerks. They would pick on people, they would pick on other hockey players, they'd swear, they would do all these drugs, and being underage at the time, it's sketchy when they do all these, smoking and chewing tobacco and stuff like that. And so the season went on, and I noticed my good friend Justin started to, talk to them more. He started to, get along with them. Kind of like, you notice that out of him. And so throughout this our hockey season, I see Justin swearing. I see Justin, my friend that I grew up with. He's trying to change. He's changing the person that's my friend. He was swearing. He was doing, he's picking on the other guys now, and he was just because of the people he met. So I went up to Justin and I said, Justin, why are you swearing? And he goes, Connor, this is hockey. You can do whatever you want. No one's going to care. You do whatever you want. I said, I'm not the one to swear at the time, so I just let it go. I didn't fight. So I remember before one game we had, I saw Justin and his buddies outside as I was coming to the arena. They were doing something like sketchy outside, and I noticed what they were doing. They were like smoking, and I think they were drinking alcohol. I'm like, why are they doing this before the game? And I remember them asking if I wanted to come join them, and I said, no, I'm not that kind of person to do that, harm my body or anything. So Justin and his 2 buddies started to get very defensive, started calling me names, making fun of me just for not joining them. And so basically, I knew from there on, I lost my good friend Justin because he was trying to be someone he wasn't the same person as he was before. So, my grandpa, who had come to all my games to be the greatest supporter that, we were very close with each other because I talked to him about anything. And I remember that the greatest gift that he's ever given me is that he believed in me. Because he'd come to all my games, like I said, and he would not miss one game. He's a great hockey man. He's very passionate about it. And so the day that I had a problem with Justin and his buddies, I remember what he said because he knew something was wrong. He said, Connor, sometimes friends come and go, but the people who truly love you will always stay around you to help you grow to stay true to yourself. I said, I didn't understand what you just said. So I was just, not focusing about what he said. I was thinking about who's my friend Justin. And so, going on from there, he started to explain more, and that was me in hockey. That's actually that was Justin. He was goalie at the time. He wanted to get a picture of that. And so, I took in what my grandpa told me about the advice and about how he grew up to be the person he was, because he was someone who went through life, through struggles, through the rough times, and he got through because of the person he was, and I wanted he was my role model. And so, as the season went on, even more, throughout after what my grandpa told me, I took that advice and I took it from the heart. And so, before one big game we had in hockey, going back to my story, I remember Justin and his two buddies started, this was in the locker room, and we were, I was getting my hockey gear on. Him and the buddies were starting, picking on me. He started telling other hockey players lies about me. That made me feel bad, which it did. So I said, the only person at the time who made me feel bad was my grandpa. So I just go talk to him after the game. So throughout the game, or during the middle of the game, I remember sitting on the bench and I remember looking up in the stands and I noticed that my grandpa wasn't there. Because I see every one of my people try to show up to him. And so I figured, I would just talk to him after the game because he had something else going on that day. So the game ended, I went to the locker room, packed up all my hockey gear, and right when I left the locker room, I took out my phone and I saw 3 missed calls from my dad and a text message saying, grandparents passed away. And so, to end my story right there, I know it was a sad day for me, but I remember what my grandpa told me, and that's him on the right. And what he told me, I took that advice and I took it to the heart because of the person he was growing up and because of the person he really believed in something, stay true to himself. He really was the person that he wanted to be, the guy he was. And, that's why he's my role model today. So, all right. So then, going on from my article, I found from John Wesley that talks about this was called "Grow Yourself," which was by John Wesley. He talks about the 4 benefits of being yourself. And so, number 1, you instantly become a better listener because people will listen to you more. They will be able to talk to you. You'll be able to give advice, and they can give advice to you. Give advice to you because of the person you are. Number 2, you will be less manipulative. Number 3, many people will like you more because of the person you are, because they accept you for the person you are, not someone you're not. And lastly, number 4, you'll feel more relaxed being the person you are because, people, when you're in your own body, you don't want to be someone you're not, you're trying to be someone, you're trying to be cool, or, obviously that can affect you in the long run. If you try to be someone you're not, then and look at my friend Justin, how he changed on him. He's into drugs and all this bad things. I connection to his other friends. And so, let's see. People who, you see people today, how, people can change around you constantly and it can affect you or others in a way. For example, people who go on dates, you got guys and girls. For example, a guy will go on a date with a girl and the guy will say all these lies or something about him, and then the girl won't believe him because all of a sudden she'll find out that these lies are true and the guy's just need to impress her, make her feel better. All he's trying to do is make him be someone who's not. And then another thing I found is there's something in that Cosmo magazine that there are like 100 ways to get into college. And going back to John Wesley, my article, he talks about not believing anything that's written down, or having said that you shouldn't believe anything that like tells you what to do or how to act in college. Just be the person you want to say truly something, believe in yourself. And so, Bill Gates, I took a quote from him because I researched him and I also didn't know Bill Gates because he went through college or went through life being the person he was. He dropped out of high school. He made this big invention. Look at him today, he's a billionaire. The quote that I found from him, he said, "Don't compare yourself to anyone in the world. If you do so, you are insulting yourself." And he's right because if you compare yourself in the world to other people, then it's hard because it brings negative effects to you. And as I was researching an article that talks about how he grew up and stuff, he said he was a person who believed in himself and how he thought of all these good ideas because he didn't let anyone tell him what to do, or he didn't have anyone he compared himself to. And so another article that I found that talks about ways to help succeed to being yourself, but I found took interest in because number one, it says never compare yourself with other people. Like I said with Bill Gates, he never compared himself. He never compared himself with other people. And I didn't ever compare myself with other people just because I didn't want to be someone I'm not. And I just want to be the person that I felt most comfortable with. Number two, speak good things about yourself because when you do, you have all these positive things that bring out the best in you. And if you have these negative thoughts, it just it brings out, puts you down and you found out that it can lead to all these sorts of things, depression, stress you out, and all these different ways. Number three, you have the courage to be different and deal with criticism. And lastly, number four, don't let another person tell you what to do or determine what you're worth because, like I said, if you let another person tell you what to do, then it's just telling you, might as well just let it control your life. It can also lead to bad things like Justin. He had those two guys, going back to the start, he had those two buddies of his who told him what to do and look where he is today because he went away that brought him down. And I lost him as a friend. And so that leads me to where I am today because being myself is something that I think that I do well because I have the people in my life, I have the good friends, and they all accept me for who I am. I think that's something that I take in because I believe in myself, and another thing is that I stay true to myself, who I am and who I want to be. So, thank you.
What was your grandpa's name?
Jack. Yep. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I know. I was lucky to find one. Lucky to find one from Justin and I. So. What's that? No, he's into doing all these bad things and drugs and back in the cities. No, he doesn't. So.
Right.
You want to look on the main? You want to look on the main screen?
Oh, yeah, I'll put it on.
Oh, we don't want that.
Maybe just
Maybe
minimize it.
That's what I want. Thank you.
Okay, well, first I just want
thank you all for being here to listen to what I have to say. My message comes from a very personal place, but I'm excited to share it with you because even though I'm an athlete, and I know who Peter is, and how many others have played sport. So Peter and I are the only ones at collegiate level, but it doesn't really matter. I think that what I have to share rings true even for non-athletes. So my name is Caroline, and just like well over 1/3 of this university, I am a collegiate athlete. And my sport is soccer. And actually, soccer is what brought me to this university in the first place. I'm originally from Ohio, never been to Minnesota before school. Glad to be here. And if I'm being honest, soccer is probably what's influenced a lot of my big life decisions. Not just where to attend college, but also the formation of friendships, relationships, a lot of my morals, and most of my values can be found in the roots of soccer. Just a few weeks ago, I had to deal with the big transition of no longer playing soccer. And it was hard for me to swallow because for 18 years, I've been a soccer player. And I didn't know really what to do. I dabbled with other sports throughout my life. I was a little girl, I played soccer, I played softball, I tried ballet, wasn't very graceful. But soccer is what really stuck for me. And in high school, I became just as much a soccer player as I was a student. My name would come up, and soccer would closely follow me in mind of the people I was talking to. I would often be asked about small talk things, you know, how are you doing, what's up, and shortly after they'd say, how's the team doing, did you win last night, you know, what's the game going to be like tomorrow? And that was okay with me, and the same thing has been true in college. Not a problem. I love that people are interested in me as a person and as a soccer player. But now that's not really true. I've been forced to redefine myself lately because I no longer have soccer. I'm no longer Caroline Blackwood, captain number 23. I won't ever get to put the St. Mary's jersey on again, and that's been hard to swallow. I kept joking a few weeks ago when I was coming up to the last season, the last week. I kept joking that I felt like I was about to go through this really bad breakup in my life. Sorry to my boyfriend, but soccer is going to always be my number one love of my life. Just how it is. But I was struggling because I was the only one who really felt this way. I would try to talk to the other 5 seniors on my team, and they didn't really share the same way. I had one of my friends who was counting down the days. She made one of those link paper things, where each day she'd tear off a link, and she was counting down. It was hard. I didn't really know who to talk to about it, or how to deal with it, because no one really shared my feelings. So that's when I kind of turned to some research of professional athletes. I thought that if I was struggling with this, professional athletes who have dedicated their entire lives to their sports must have struggled with the same issue when they had to end their sports careers, because obviously we can't all play forever, so the day does come. And that's when I found a quote by Jackie Robinson. And he said, athletes die twice. And that hit home for me, because athletes die twice. And that's how he described what retiring felt like for him. And I think that rings really true. But it also really worried me, because that's not how I want to feel approaching this next more than half of my life, where I won't be able to be a soccer player. So I kept doing some more research, and I came across the International Olympic Committee, which is a division of the Olympics, and they had some literature on the subject, and they said that transitioning out of a sport implies an identity change. And a lot of times, athletes who face the ending of their careers feel like they've lost themselves, part of themselves. Again, not how I want to feel going into this next phase of my life. So the challenge becomes, how do we overcome the sense of loss, or this first death? And so I came across an article by Donna Menke, who is an assistant professor of counseling and student affairs at Kansas State University. And she said the key to helping student athletes overcome this transition in their lives is to help them explore different identities other than those based in sports. So we need to explore other identities, whether that's professional, social, or familiar roles. So I may be a soccer player, but I'm also a sister. I have a younger sister and an older sister, and I take a lot of pride in that. I am a friend. I have lots of friends, not only the girls on my soccer team, but back home, people in this room. I am a girlfriend. I have a boyfriend who I love very much. That's a big role for me in my life. I'm also a student. I have an academic identity. I'm also a future PR professional. That's the goal. My point is that I have other identities other than my athletic one. I think as athletes it's important for us to realize that we have more worth than just the sport we play. So I may be an athlete, but my time on the sport field has allowed me to develop skills and different marketable traits in myself that will help me propel myself forward into my life. And the same is true for all of us. So my sport may have shaped me and even defined me. I'm sure the same may be true for all of you. But I'm more than the sport I play. I'm more than number 23, the soccer player. I'm Caroline, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm a PR professional. I may be able to score goals, I may be able to assist goals, but I'm more than my sport, and I have an identity outside of soccer. I have a mind, I have a personality. I'm much more than a person who can kick a ball. So to help me cope with my bad breakup with soccer, which you may be facing one as well, I focus my energy on what lies ahead for me. And that's graduation from college, getting a job, and hopefully moving to a new city. I take comfort in knowing that soccer has prepared me for the next stage of my life. I learned a lot of traits on the soccer field that will be transferable into a working job. For example, the love of competition. Employees love that I have a drive to succeed and to be a component, stuff like that. And also the fact that soccer made me better at time management. I had to dedicate 3 hours a day to soccer while managing a full course load and also work study jobs, so it makes you very marketable. I think that a lot of us can agree that sports, or whatever your extracurricular activities are, they kind of become teachers for us. And I did learn a lot on the soccer field, not just how to kick a ball, but things that would be valuable way beyond sports. So you may have one thing that defines or becomes central to your identity. For me, it's being a lifelong athlete. For you, it may be being a student or being a sister. But as I learned with soccer, change is inevitable. We're going to enter and exit different stages of our lives. For example, most of us are seniors in this room, and in 7 short months we'll be graduating from college, and that's a big change. And after that, we may be moving to new cities, we may be getting married, we may be getting new jobs, buying homes, having children. There's a lot of stages in our lives, and those count as transitions. And those transitions may be rocky. But it's important for us to realize that our identities are always evolving, and that it's okay to have to redefine ourselves. I may not be number 23 anymore. I may not ever get to wear my St. Mary's jersey with number 23, which someone soon will be wearing. That's not me. And I may not be on that field anymore with my teammates who have become lifelong friends. But now I get to be whoever I want to be, and that's extremely exciting. My identity lies in my own hands. I get to decide what's next. And I don't know about you, but that's really exciting. Also a little terrifying, but because that happens. So if you're approaching your own bad breakup, like I did with soccer, I encourage you to think about other assets that you have in your life, other important things you have in your life, other identities you have in your life, maybe an academic identity, or a social identity, or a family identity. These things are just not, it's even more important than an athletic identity. You are more than a sport you play. So I encourage you to welcome change. Be the one who accepts change and goes at it excited and full of life. Because sometimes in the waves of change, we find ourselves in our direction. Thank you.
The
achieved and so forth?
But okay. I've been very busy doing stuff, so I haven't really had nothing to do. It's hard, you know.
I think that it was local to individually join this course. I haven't been in sports since high school, and but I related this to the moment where I was not. So I think that we all had an experience that we can learn.
God, that's why my goals were to make it conversational and to make it relatable. So I'm glad that. I let myself getting emotional. I'm sorry.
You did good at the first person. I'm sorry. I said you're really great now. Even the fact that you were
It's like a very.
And the fact that you're going through it right now helps too. Because you're trying to find education while also discovering it.
Yeah, I think this felt a really great time because I think it actually kind of helped me.
Yeah, because it's very forced to like
Yeah. And just reading about other, I mean, I know I'm not a professional elite athlete, but even reading about other people's stories.
About 15. You want to do it?
Yeah, so, Sir Peter and Chief, so, if you're going to next level, we'll try to.
Just something that we want you guys to keep in mind over this whole thing is be thinking about the TEDx's that you like the most. Because after everybody gives theirs, then we're going to hand out a sheet to everyone, and we want you to circle the 2 or 3 or however many that you like the most. So just kind of keep that in mind in your head. There won't be names on it or anything. It will be confidential. That to help us decide something.
Good job. You were.
Who's going to do next?
Well, us.
That time went so fast. Ah!
What's that?
That time went so fast.